Hi, and welcome to XR for Work. This is the show where we explore the immersive virtual, mixed, and augmented platforms designed for business and professional use. My name is Rick, and I'm your host here at XR for Work. Today, we explore a hot meeting and collaboration platform that's been in the news for some time due to its work last year with PricewaterhouseCoopers. PwC released a well-known report last year on the efficacy of VR for training, and it became known they were using Arthur for some meetings and workshops. So Arthur has been at work quietly in the background for some time, and then suddenly, earlier this month here in March of 2021, it launched on the Quest store with a free tier for anyone that's a Quest user. So now that Arthur has launched its free tier, we're going to take a look. So with that, let's get started. Please make sure to come and join us over on our Facebook group, the XR for Work group. If you need to email us at xr4work@gmail.com. And follow us on Twitter at XR4Work. Stop by and say hi on LinkedIn to Rick Castile or Nicholas Johansson, the partners at XR4Work. We'd love to hear from you, get into a discussion, or have you share your ideas about productivity in the XR space. And with that, let's get started. Okay. So today we're talking about Arthur. And as I said, Arthur had been on my radar screen for almost an entire year. And again, going back to when I came across the PricewaterhouseCoopers report from last fall, and their name had come up, not necessarily in the report, but that they had partnered with Arthur and were using their platform for some of their meetings and workshops. So obviously you get associated with PwC, your name gets some attention. And so but it wasn't readily available, and there wasn't information out on the landscape about it. And so it was, at least for me, somewhat under the radar. So what is Arthur? Well, right from their website, they describe themselves as a virtual office space that enables you and your team to meet, collaborate, manage your work. It empowers you to maximize your level of remote productivity and free yourself from geographic and physical constraints. And what you see running in the panel on the right is the video from their website from their work with PwC. And you have a PwC spokesperson, actually more than one, speaking to you during this loop on the website. We run it here so you can kind of get a sense of what Arthur is and how it works. See, there's a lot of use of 3D objects. And then maybe, at least with me, one of the things that immediately stood out was the direction they took with the avatars. And in my mind, it kind of like reminisced for me the agents in the Matrix, right? Everybody's kind of in a black suit, dark glasses, and a boom mic kind of in front of the mouth. Now, I think there's an obvious reason for this in terms of keeping down the poly count and the need to animate eyes and mouths within the space. I mean, you free up resources that way. But it is a very distinctive design decision that you will be needing to get used to as you leverage and utilize Arthur. And so, as we've said, it's a meeting and collaboration space. There are 3 tiers. Right now, there's a free consumer space available right in the Oculus store. And with that, you get one room and you can have up to 4 users. Now they advertise a consumer plus space. And in fact, when we go through our walkthrough here in a minute, I'll call out the 2 locked doors in the free space. These 2 locked doors obviously unlock with the Consumer Plus version. That leads you to 2 other types of rooms, and then you're able to have 10 users. I believe that the cost for this tier is $15 a month, but I wasn't able to validate that because the sign-up site for the Consumer Plus version happened to be down today when I'm recording this. So more to come on that. And then there is a professional level, right? And Arthur really markets itself as a tool for large organizations and corporations where they advertise unlimited users, unlimited rooms. And so, you know, in their marketing offering, you could run your entire corporation within Arthur and everybody could be virtual and meet in these unlimited numbers of rooms with unlimited number of people. And very basically, you're populating your Arthur web portal with content, and then you go into the meeting room and you import it in and you set up and utilize your meeting room. That's it at the simplest level. So this is, again, a couple of snips from their website where they're showing utilizations of their presentation board, and you're able to use PDFs and MP4s, as well as PowerPoint. I was able to pull one of my PowerPoints in. Now, the PowerPoint and the PDF content is obviously static. And as you know, I use lots and lots of video in my PowerPoints that we do here on the XR for Work site with our presentations. So wherever I'd had a video content in my presentation, it ended up just being a blank space. But I could pull that content in separately and be able to kind of flip back and forth while I was presenting if I were doing it that way. The you know, the ubiquitous whiteboard is present within within Arthur, and you know, there's you know, as many different permutations of mechanics for whiteboards as there are whiteboards and platforms, and we'll talk about how Arthur does theirs as we do our walkthrough. File management, they actually have a really nice system for pulling files in that you've uploaded in your portal into the space, and then exporting content out. So if I go to someone else's meeting and they're sharing a PDF or a PowerPoint, if they've allowed it, then I can actually grab a copy and save that to my content and go back and get that later myself. And then again, 3D objects are represented and utilized within the Arthur spaces. Also, not only just for meeting viability, but also to populate your space with. So if you want a chair or a coffee bar or you know, a lounge, you're going to actually pull those 3D objects in and be able to populate the spaces yourself. So, okay, let's jump in. And this is, you know, we're going in here on the Quest into the free Arthur environment. And as I come up here, I'm going to pause just a minute with this loading screen to show you that you'll notice that I have my name and my picture up here, and I've populated that in advance again from the portal. There's a lot of work you do with the Arthur portal when you sign up, and then again, you pull the content in. And then as you come into the space, you'll actually see the content popping in that they've pre-populated, and they've done a really nice job here setting up the initial room as a tutorial. So you'll notice up you know, the upper part of the walls and the ceilings, that you'll see these numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all the way around the room. And the idea is you have these varying stations that you'll go through and learn about the mechanics and the content within Arthur. The first thing you'll also notice is that kind of floating at your waist at 12 o'clock, and it follows you around as a note board or a notepad that's with you continually. And so, you know, it's kind of natural. I reached out and grabbed it and wanted to figure out how to use it. And there's 2 input mechanisms. One is a keyboard that will come up, and then the second is pen input, as you can see. You will toggle a pen menu with your B button or your Y button on either of your controllers so that you can change the pen color and go from a pen to a marker to an eraser, and also for the thickness of your pen marking. And then you can export, like I said, you can email the file, you can export it to your Arthur Drive, or even to your headset storage. And so this is really nice. And again, we're in a meeting space, so the idea is you might be taking a lot of meetings. So you can see here's item or station 1, and all of this is content that's been pulled into the room in advance by Arthur. So this 1 is a 3D object. This about this room is a label or a notepad, you might think, that they've written on and shaped up there. This Arthur Virtual Office PDF is content that they've pulled in. It's a PDF, they've placed it there, sized it, and then there's a mechanism to lock certain things in place so that as people come in, they're not easily or accidentally moved about. And then you can see I can toggle through the various pages of the PDF. And this kind of gives you your first overview of Arthur. And here's mention of the Consumer Plus room package that I'd mentioned before, where you have 2 additional rooms in addition to this one. And again, sorry, I wasn't able to go and actually get more information about the pricing on that. They add a workspace shop and a team space in addition to this first landing room, if you will, or multi-purpose room that we're in now. And I did it again. And let's go back here. And where were we? Okay, I'll get us caught up here in a second. And here we are. Let's start here. Okay, now moving about the room, you can mainly teleport. That's done with the A or the X buttons. And movement took a little while to get used to. For some reason, I kept hitting the B and the Y button instead of the A and the X button. And I don't know if I've gotten used to using that from some other platforms or not. But for some reason, it seemed inverse to me. I don't know why. So also in the room, you can see over here in the corner, I had dropped in a PowerPoint, and I put that little notepad sign up there that said PowerPoint to recognize it as such. But again, there was no video content that was able to be utilized. If you didn't notice the sign below, what you'll see is that your controller automatically goes into pen mode based on how close you get to the whiteboard. And that's the same way it worked on the notepad also. So the controller automatically converts itself to the pen as you get within a certain distance and you write. And then when you're in pen mode, you can hit your B button, pull up your menu, and then that's where you can change the pen, as I have here. And I've put it in marker mode, and I'm writing in kind of a red-orange color on the board. It's fine. It doesn't operate by touch, so you're not reliant on getting the pen in alignment with the marker board. You just have the notation, the target that's showing up. You pull your trigger, and you're writing. And that's it. So it does require a lot of pull trigger, let go of trigger, pull trigger, let go of trigger, pull trigger, let go of trigger. Just a little bit different mechanisms and similar to ones you may have used in other areas or other platforms. Okay, and then you can wipe it all off, and there you go. And then we'll kind of navigate around the room a little bit more. Again, as we move away, the controller becomes a controller. And you can see here, now here's where they talk about file utilization, exporting to the portal, importing from the portal, how to hold a presentation. And you can see I've already been in here and done all kinds of marking on the board. And I was in here with a small group. And the reason you see the black markings and the blue markings, there were 2 people, and we were experimenting with whether 2 people could mark on the board at the same time. And it seemed like you could. Although occasionally we would seem to get this corruption where the pen marking, as you could see, streaked across the board when someone else was writing. So maybe something not quite still worked out totally. And then each of these instruction boards that you might see here are, again, previously imported. Now, the way you would work with any of these objects within the room, whether it was a 3D object, whether it was a PDF, whether it was a notepad, is you're going to point at it with your laser pointer, pull and hold the trigger, maybe 3 seconds, and you'll have a menu pop up here in front of you. And then from the menu, you'll have the varying menu items that you can apply to that particular thing based on your access to things within the room and the particular item that you're actually working with. So I can add an annotation here, and this was a nice feature where I could add a text comment or actually record a comment that I did in this particular case, and then attach it to the particular thing. So the idea is, these persistent rooms that you can put content in that people can come back to later, and they would see, as you can see here, this spinning, glowing red circle, which means, hey, I have an annotation here, and I could pull the trigger at it and then listen to what my colleague has said. Now, in this particular case, I'm looking at, and I pulled the menu up for this 3D object that we were playing with these tables of 3D objects, and this one was floating in the air. And if I pull the trigger on it, kind of tells me what it is, an icosphere, and I can add an annotation, add a text label, stretch the object. I could add a connector, and we were playing a lot with, what was the potential and the possibility of doing these 3D flow charts or work diagrams using these shapes that they've given you, where I can connect them logically. I can add annotations to them. So you might imagine, very much like you would do a workflow and a project board, you could very much do it in 3D here in Arthur with some of these tools that they give you. And then kind of over behind this table, you can see this, again, they've pre-populated this retrospective meeting idea where, again, you can kind of put these headers, and all these are notes from the notepad feature that they give you on the main menu. Put them up there, shape them kind of any way you want. And obviously they become kind of like a Jira board, and then people can go and put their sticky notes underneath to provide input and feedback. So all very utilizable. Now, over here against this wall, this is where you see one of the locked doors. And if you, it's probably too hard to see on the video, but there's a padlock on there. And this is one of the doors that you would get if you signed up for the Consumer Plus. I'm going to go back a little bit. I did it again. But I want to go back and find, there's another door, see if I can get to it real quick. Right here, over here by the coffee area. So opposite sides of the rooms, you have these two locked doors. And that's where it would take you to, or you would unlock if you got the Consumer Plus versions. Okay, I thought this was important to bring up as we start getting into our assessment and talking about total cost of ownership. And I think this is really good of Arthur to bring up, and I think it applies to any of these immersive meeting platforms that we've talked about over the last several months. And these are just, I think my finance department would call these soft costs, but I think it's things that we have to start calculating out and realizing a benefit from. But that's, the environmental sustainability issues that are at play here, and the need to start minimizing travel and carbon usage, the financial and time savings. I know since I've been able to work more at home this last year, I have no doubt in my mind I'm actually productively working more than when I worked at the office, because now I'm cutting out 2 hours of travel time every single day, and those 2 hours are going into working here at home. And so I think there's an absolute financial benefit from the time savings and the production that employees can put into their work. A happier workforce, again, I can attest to that. I have much preferred working the majority of my time at home. I like going into the office once or twice a week where I can interact with folks, but for the most part, my job allows me to do most of what I have to do at home. And I think as we become more of a digital workforce, that we'll find more and more that this is true. And then this collaborative freedom, and I think VR and immersive technologies just lends itself to this truth that, having these environments that are inviting and they're relaxing and they're aesthetically pleasing really contributes both to the happier workforce and this type of collaborative and creative freedom that you get within the medium. So, I think these are things that companies really need to start considering and putting some efforts into exploring more by leveraging platforms like Arthur. And so, Arthur is meeting in collaboration, right? So it's all about the collaboration, the social, the UI ergonomics, and the flow. And, again, like many other platforms, Arthur excels at all of those. They give you a lot of tools in there once you understand how the menus work, which is not at all overly difficult. But sometimes after you've done many of these platforms like I have, it does start to beg the question about where the standards exist for how these menus and this interaction is to take place. And I didn't have any difficulty after one or two sessions within Arthur, understanding, how I access my files, how I bring things in, how I manipulate things within the world and the environment. And once you're there, you're 80% towards then understanding how you can hold meetings and events and workshops and trainings within those environments. So yeah, I could use Arthur, would use Arthur in a minute for meeting and collaboration. Okay, well, here we are at the end of another episode. And again, I thank you for joining us here at XR for Work. I hope if you have a quest, you go out there, download Arthur, give it a try, and drop your feedback here at the YouTube page. Invite some of your friends. Please let them know about us. We're very close to that 750 subscriber mark, and I'd love to be able to get to 1,000 before the end of 2021. So thank you for being here, and thank you for watching here at XR for Work. And we will see you in the metaverse. Bye now.